Could you please start by sharing your name and what it is that you do?
My name is Andrew Miller, and I am a Disney College Program participant who works in the Epcot parking lot.
What is it that you go to school for?
Digital media and photography.
What exactly is you said you go for digital media and photography?
Yes.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
Why would your favorite color be blue?
I believe I just like the way it looks. I think I look good in blue clothing, and it's a cool color, cool toned color.
Definitely a fair point. I definitely respect that answer. When looking back at the pandemic and thinking about it, what is your opinion on how the pandemic affected the world?
I think it changed the way we do everything every day. There's people that are still wearing masks day in, day out. I think it just changed daily life.
So, since it has changed daily life, can you describe to me how the pandemic affected you mentally?
During the pandemic, at the beginning, it was scary seeing that everybody was, there was a sickness that was spreading through countries all around the world, and that we didn't know how to cure it, how to combat it in any way. So in the beginning, it was scary. But as we learned how to protect ourselves mentally, I sort of calmed my anxiety and my stress by understanding that I was doing everything that I could to protect myself.
How would you say it affected you emotionally or physically?
Physically, since I was home all the time, I gained a lot of weight. So physically, I guess the stress in the beginning, trying to exercise at home, but not being as motivated as I would be if I went to the gym. Physically, was a it was a drastic change from myself pre-pandemic.
Do you feel being during the pandemic and stuck in quarantine affected your family? And how was your family affected during the pandemic and quarantine?
Well, it brought us closer together because we were spending all that time together, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. So, as a family who it's me, my mom, my dad, and my brother. I was in college during the pandemic, had to come home. My brother was in college during the pandemic, had to come home. We didn't see each other much before that. So it was nice to spend time together. But then after a while, we, you know, we wanted to see other people and be around other people. So it was tough later on, maybe half a year in, to be around the same people all the time. But I think it was draining after a while for all of us. Just doing the same thing every day, not going out all the time. So, yeah.
You said that you had to go home from college during the pandemic. What did that do to you? Did that take a toll having to go back home and leave college?
Yeah, that was sad. That was that took a toll on me mentally and emotionally because COVID started breaking out right when I was gonna fly on a trip to Nashville for spring break. The week everything started going crazy, so I we planned that out for a couple months. So I was incredibly excited to go spend a week with my friends on spring break, and we said to each other, we'll see when we were told that we're gonna have the week off. Yeah, everybody needs to go home, and then we'll figure out what happens afterwards, depending on how serious this disease is. When we were told we weren't gonna go back to school, it it was sad. I was sad because we acted like it was no big deal, like we were gonna see each other in a week, and even though we weren't gonna have that vacation, we'd be back. We'd be back next week. No big deal. So being away from my friends, having to do work in my room, finishing off my senior year of college in my room with nobody else around, that was that was tough. But I adjusted eventually. But in the beginning it was tough.
Can you describe a way in which you were able to overcome the obstacles while being in your room completing your senior year of college? Was there anything that stood out, or was it a series of events that helped guide you?
I think what stood out, what really helped was, it's silly, but playing video games with my friends, talking in an Xbox chat with my friends when I wasn't working on homework or when I wasn't doing projects, wasn't filming videos for school. Having that communication, knowing that we were all in the same situation, but we were going through it together, made it easier. And I think that's what helped me get through those first couple months.
Would you say that playing video games and socializing online with your friends not only helped you, but potentially helped them as well as you were all going through a tough time together?
Absolutely. I think it was communal. So I'm sure if it made me feel better, it definitely made them feel better too, because we all had different situations at home.
So I know you used video games as a way to counteract the stress and anxiety of being in your room while also trying to focus on your senior year of college. Was there any other hobbies that you picked up or that you pursued during the quarantine?
There were a couple. First was guitar, because that was something I'd always wanted to learn. I had one from when I was younger, never had the ambition to actually sit down and learn how to play. And with the pandemic being at home, I had all the time in the world. So that was the first thing I did, was spent a few weeks learning notes and chords and a couple of my favorite songs. And that was fun. That was definitely good relief for stress and anxiety. And that was a good outlet. to express my feelings. The next one would be cooking. I started cooking maybe midway through the pandemic. Started simple, like homemade macaroni and cheese, and then got a bit more complex as I felt more comfortable cooking meat per se, like stir fry and steak, turkey burgers, things that I still cook on my own today.
Out of everything you learned to cook during the quarantine, what would you say was your most favorite? What would you say was the most challenging?
Favorite definitely be the macaroni and cheese. As comfort food, I can make it any day of the week and it would make me happy. The most challenging, that would be the stir fry. Challenging would definitely be stir fry, just because of the sauce and the seasonings. First time I made it, I messed up, and it tasted way too much like seafood because I used oyster sauce, and it ruined the dish. And that was rough because my family was coming home. They went out somewhere grocery shopping, I think, and I told them I'd have dinner ready by the time they came home. And by the time they came home, I had dinner ready, but I completely screwed it up. So I think we just ordered pizza. So that was a learning experience.
With cooking and everything you have learned, would you say that it is a good skill to have now that you learned then you never thought you could learn?
Definitely. I cook 1 to 2 meals a day now, and living on my own, paying for my own groceries, not having a cafeteria like I would in high school or college. I'm grateful for learning cooking when I did, or learning to cook when I did, because it set me up for success down the road in a way that I didn't think I would, because I'd never expected to be in the college program right now. If I told myself in 2020 that I'd be in the college program a couple years later, I never would have guessed.
Do you feel the college program was a boost to your morale and your social life getting out of the pandemic and learning to move into, as we call it, the new normal?
I think it's the best thing that's happened to me in a couple years, ever since leaving school. It has been a fantastic experience for me, although absolutely stressful at times, given the hours we work and the money that we're paid. The social life and the freedom that we have to go to the parks and experience Disney World, and living in Florida with beautiful weather most of the time has been a great experience, and it's something that I'll cherish probably for the rest of my life.
Would you say that after your experience through the pandemic and everything you have learned, did you change? Has it shaped you into the person you are today, or would you say it made little to no effect? What effect would you say personally the quarantine has had on building you into who you are today?
I actually think it made me a better person. It made me into a more mature person than I was 2 years ago. I relied on my parents to cook all my meals for me. I relied on them for housing. I My diet was terrible, and I learned another thing I learned during the pandemic was how to eat right, because after gaining all that weight, I needed to lose that weight. So looking into healthy eating, I learned what my body specifically needs to be healthy and to live at a comfortable weight that is a healthy weight. So there, and I'm grateful that during the pandemic, I had the idea of applying for the college program when they said it was going to be up and running soon, because I never would have guessed that I'd be here right now. And I don't think I would be here right now if I didn't go through all the things I went through during the quarantine. It shaped me in ways that I'll be forever grateful for in an incredibly tough time for everybody.
So I know how you mentioned you had learned cooking during the pandemic, and you have talked about how the food you have ate, the food you eat now, you have become healthier, have a healthier diet, and you're starting to feel better. Would you say that the cooking you learned during the quarantine was the initial process, so to say, of you building yourself into the healthier version you are today?
I never thought about it that way, but looking back, I definitely see the beginning of a healthier lifestyle starting when I learned how to cook, because I cooked food like turkey burgers or healthier alternatives to red meat at times when my family and I got tired of eating the same thing. We tried to switch it up, and my suggestion was turkey burgers. And then after we started eating those, we started eating lean meat and fish and just healthier alternatives that made us feel good, and it was fun to switch up what we were eating every day.
Of all the things you had learned to cook and of all the meals you and your family had, was there a certain meal that you and your family pinpointed to have, say, every week at least once, or even once a month that you all enjoyed together?
Beef stew. It would be my mom's beef stew that she would cook in a crock pot, probably around once a month. And that was something that I know my dad and I really look forward to whenever she told us she was going to make it. So that would be one thing that I could pinpoint for sure.
Now, I know in our initial questions, I had asked you what your favorite color was, and you had told me it was blue for the feeling of warmth and cool and the enjoyment you get from wearing the color blue. If you had to simplify the pandemic into one singular color, what do you feel that color would be?
I think it would also be blue, because blue is also known to correspond with feelings of sadness and loneliness and depression. And being that the pandemic, being that quarantine was an incredibly tough time for many people, although I had a relatively positive overall experience, I know that I'm not alone in saying there was there was sadness there, there was loneliness there, and millions of people felt that way, having been cooped up in our houses for months at a time, not being able to see your friends and having to FaceTime with them or Zoom call people. I definitely think I would say blue.
When looking at the color blue, which particular shade of blue do you think may possibly represent the quarantine more? Would you say a sky blue for brighter futures ahead, or possibly a darker blue for the scary times we were experiencing?
If I were to bring myself back to that time, depending on where we were in quarantine, in the pandemic, I would say navy blue. Navy blue, because a lot of it was overall for the world. It was a dark time, and we weren't sure how long it was going to last for. So navy blue would be my answer.
Looking back on it now, would you say there's a different shade of blue that you could see, or do you feel even to this day navy blue would be the best considered shade of blue for the overall pandemic?
I think sky blue or a lighter, maybe baby blue shade could absolutely be used now, because at the time we didn't know how long everything was going to last. But looking back on it, we're in a better place now, having learned to live with COVID, and then things are looking up in terms of medicine. So a lighter shade of blue is absolutely warranted for where we are now.
Moving forward into your future, everything you have experienced during the quarantine, the hobbies you picked up, cooking, playing the guitar, playing your video games with your friends for that social interaction, do you feel in the present and your future that it will be a lot easier for you to build relationships with other people?
I think I have more of a well-rounded personality than I did. So I think everything that I've learned gives me more life experience, gives me more conversation experience, and could certainly help build relationships with people, because I doubt I'm the only one that picked up a hobby like playing guitar or learned how to cook. There are millions of people out there that all went through the same thing. So I'm sure that there are ways I can use what I went through to build better relationships with people around me.
After all thoughtful consideration and the wonderful answers you have given me, is there anything else pertaining to the pandemic and quarantine that you would like to add or have thought of based on our experience and our conversation here today?
I, I'm grateful for the experience I went through, and I'm grateful to have had such a meaningful experience, because it has definitely shaped who I am today, and I'm sure it shaped the people around me and made me a better person because of it.
I wanted to say thank you. It was an honor to get to know you and an honor to hear your thoughts on these deeper questions. One last thing for you, if you could just please restate your name and what you do for everyone else back home.
My name is Andrew Miller, and I am a Disney College program participant who works in the Epcot parking lot.